This is an SM Media production. Hi folks, and welcome to the latest episode of the Betting Ring right here on SM Media. I'm Scott McPike. It's an absolute pleasure to be your host as always, and I'm delighted as always to be joined by from the Scottish Daily Mail, Calum McClurkin. Calum, very busy weekend we've just had there. Not all positive as we'll get into, but very dramatic weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it's Aintree and Grand National, obviously, protesters and Corach Rambler winning, but yeah, I mean, it is the week where, the nation go racing at Aintree, and it's also the week where kind of racing social licence comes under the court of public opinion, and that's kind of the drawback of having such a great festival. It was really well attended, so yeah, there were 3 fatalities overall, and that kind of got the headlines. It was a bit of a shame because it was a really successful Grand National meeting, and a fantastic winner in Corach Rambler.
Speaking of the winner, Corach Rambler, it's been a wee topic on here for a while. The famous double, it then landed. We'll get into the race as a whole, but first of all, have to tip my hat. Very good selection.
He's a horse I've liked for some time for this, really. And he ticked all the right boxes. £10 well in, a yard that know what they're doing with this jockey that is so cool in these kind of circumstances with these kind of rides. Yeah, he's a bit quirky, but he's so much to offer. He can have this kind of a mercurial talent when it comes to things. Yeah, and now he's rated 159. He's going to grade of things, but yeah, it's important. I mean, do quite a lot of these things, and anyone that was willing to listen, anyone willing to read stuff. I mean, I've been kind of harping on about this horse since the turn of the year for this, really. And it's important to kind of get one right in a really big one to kind of justify a position, kind of talking right about these things. So yeah, it's a big one on the board like that, and did it in grand style as well.
It was a weird Grand National. Obviously, I don't think the situation with the delay helped the horses. I thought we saw a lot more fallers. I thought we saw a lot horses with a lot more quirks in recent years. I do think the protest played a part in that. We'll get into that, but it was sort of like he was just traveling. He was traveling so sweetly through the race. I don't think there was anything like traveling well. You had a lot. It was a very weird Grand National, I thought, where you had somebody like Corach Rambler just coming through the pack very nicely, jumped really well. I thought it was so good. Just that it was a really, really good performance.
We touched on it last week about kind of what's it like the Grand National, modern Grand National. There didn't feel like an element of lottery or luck following the kind of favourite here, and what he did, he looked in the firing line all the way. He was a bit more handily than people probably anticipated. He was always kind of sitting about 8th or 9th. Only most worry was at the start of the second circuit where I thought he was shuffled back a little bit into the division. He was maybe he was threatening to lose his pitch slightly. The other one I was drawn to while travelling around was the one beside him, was Mr. Incredible, whose saddle slipped at the canal turn. He was travelling a lot better than people thought. Like, the people that didn't like Corach Rambler were the ones that thought he's a bit quirky, he's a bit kind of his own way of doing things. Mr. Incredible was kind of the Irish equivalent of that, really, and he kind of dealt with it really well as well. So yeah, maybe it kind of it's beginning to just kind of suit these horses. It's kind of a bit of a unique test, but not as daunting as it once was, and it's suiting them quite well now. So that might be something to look for down the line. But yeah, and given the scrutiny under the race, having people like Lucinda Russell and Peter Scudamore there as winners, and a winner for a syndicate, a horse that just cost £17,000. It was a good PR winner in that kind of sense as well.
Yep, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Speaking of the race, obviously the headline is obviously the protests and what went on. I think there was some like 121 arrests. Now, I tweeted kind of straight after the big protest and things like that. I have no issue with people campaigning for animal rights if that's the way they feel. No issue with it. I think when it becomes a case of you're breaking into a race course, we see what they try to do with gluing themselves to the fence. They've actually done more harm than good to the horses. Now, I'm all for, like, we saw like the very good debate the other night with Kevin Blake and Talk TV. He's been on again in Radio 1. I thought he's carried himself really well this week as a kind of face of racing more than anything. But I think I'm all for, I'm not got an issue with people protesting, but it's when it gets to that stage of potentially harming the animals they say they're out to protect. I think it was a dangerous situation we were facing that last week, because it was the horses. I thought you saw a lot of panicked horses. I thought the atmosphere completely changed with the situation, and it just made for a really, really bad situation.
I mean, there was a sense of kind of trepidation in the air beforehand, and then when two of them managed to get on the track initially, and then the parades kind of had to happen again, and then the delay 14-15 minutes in wasn't ideal. I mean, the horse died at Hill 16. It was a fatality. It was at the first. The majority of falls now in unseats have been in the first 3 to 6 fences now in the Grand National. If you look at the record at Beechers since 2018, there's not been one fall or one unseated rider there. So the start has been the kind of issue of this kind of race now a little bit in recent years. The protesters, the big issue is for me is the kind of lack of engagement on their side of things. I mean, you can definitely protest and have your opinion, and like, social media is great for these kind of like, you know, stricken images, and you can come on to these mainstream channels and be fairly unchallenged most of the time and spout kind of skewed statistics about things. There should be an acknowledgement of what racing's done to this race. Since the turn of the decade, fatalities have been down 33%, and this, it's not enough. I mean, one fatality said, but you can't remove the whole total risk of sport. It's got a survival rate of 99.8%. Now, I mean, their main objective is to allow animals to all roam free. What you do with 50,000 thoroughbreds and just release them into the wild, I think your 99.8% survival rate is absolutely drastically
100%
withdrawn from there. And the other thing that gets me is, you know, I mean, these trainers, you know, there's so many open days, stable visits. You know, if they really cared about horses, and if they care that much about what they see and think, oh, this is cruel and this is falling, yeah, you have a bad experience watching a Grand National, and you can be put off for life on it. But if you're going to look at it that seriously and have a responsibility of going on, you know, big public channels, having a big public reach, I think you should at least kind of have the courtesy to kind of hear the other side of things. You know, look, visits, the racing programs, all these kind of good aspects of it. Community aspects, aspects of it. Trainers coming repeatedly have this offer, and it's nowhere to be seen because it doesn't suit their wider narrative. I mean, let me be clear about it. I mean, they changed their name the week before it from Animal Rebellion to Animal Rising because they don't want to be linked with Extinction Rebellion. They were linked with Just Stop Oil, who did to do that with the snooker.
Yeah.
And they're all going to London for 4 days to campaign about something there, and they may disrupt the London Marathon. This is where we're at, and you know, and it's all this crescendo to Monday when they all come back from Easter recess, and there'll be about 25 to 30,000 of them expected to kind of, and they'll send this kind of net zero kind of vegan agenda ultimatum really on the political estate. To be honest, I don't have much of an issue about that because that's in London. It's directly affecting Westminster, and it's going there. So I think that's a pretty effective way of protest, and it's actually putting people at the source of power. The people up there that are trying to, you know, watch a Grand National or like do something there. And the external, I mean, the type of people that are doing these things, you know, they're quite rich, well off, you know, well educated academic people as well. You know, trying to impinge that on you know, people that are probably less off, probably to work more, you know, dealing with a cost of living crisis, food's at its highest since 1977, just outside the pandemic, so probably quite an insecure society at the moment. I don't think the timing of it is particularly great, and that kind of type of protest, I think, sets things back a little bit. But in the context of racing, with or without protesters, the Grand National's always under review, safety wise, anyway. And they'll definitely look at things. I don't think fence height is bad, and there's nothing over 6 feet. So, and what we say with Beechers in the chair, the rate there's pretty good. The angle of the canal turn is a little bit tight, and I think actually the fence has been that soft. I think that's contributing to some trouble at the start, because more and more horses now are concertinaing to the inside, rather than using the whole track to kind of get a good sight of the fences. It's not that important anymore. I think some of them are attacking them a bit too early with speed, because they're not that. It's not that intimidating. Now that's not an advocate for putting the fences back up to the old kind of style again. Obviously not. It's obviously safer, but it's just that kind of. I mean, when you saw kind of when they went to the third or fourth, there was a lot of horses on the inside, and that kind of can cause, with the field size, that can maybe cause kind of bumping and scrimmaging a little bit and contribute to the chaos slightly. So yeah, and they're probably a little bit too boiled up at the start anyway, and I think there was a false start, so they kind of had to go. So it wasn't quite ideal, and it was a bit unedifying at the start, but it'll be looked at, and I think there will probably be changes made like there was in 2012, 2013, with synchronised, infamously fell, and they did things to level things off slightly. They'll look at it, but I don't think racing can afford to be kind of like too snap judgment on just because we've had one bad renewal a little bit. 10 random runnings of a Grand National, you're looking at like 1 death and 2 renewals isn't bad in the bigger picture. I think most of the public can see the sensibility side of it. So court of public opinion might be shifting a little bit quicker than people like, but it's a Grand National, and racing chiefs will constantly adapt it. And I like the fact that they stand up for racing on Twitter, for instance. It kind of you have to kind of bite back a little bit and challenge his narrative, because lack of engagement from the other side and kind of trying to see the other side of the argument isn't there. While people in racing, animal welfare people are on whip committee boards, for instance, and stuff like that, and then the next thing these meetings and they say, oh well, it's not enough. Ultimately they want it removed. Ultimately they want it ended. I mean, that's the big goal there, and then there's this wider kind of political narrative as well. So racing was just in the firing line for this week to the Grand National, because it had this big kind of public reach. So in terms of PR, in terms of protest, it's definitely worked out for them a little bit, and we'll see what they do in the weekend, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's obviously we could spend all day on it, but again, I think the point's been made. I think you've covered it really well there. I don't have much I need to add on it. We'll talk about some of the horses that caught our eye with performances at the Aintree Festival. First of all, obviously, like the likes of Banbridge and Zenta were really good on the Zenta, and that really good finish with Bo Zenith. Shishkin and Constitution Hill, it was a day for Nicky Henderson. Very different performances. Shishkin obviously just stayed on, kind of what we wanted, what we thought we might see. In Constitution Hill, it wasn't as flashy as it's been in the past, but it didn't need to be.
No, it didn't. Constitution Hill probably had to run to like 159 in my book there. He's down 1 by 3.5 lengths. Quite a strong win that day he was running into, so he definitely get the trip reasonably well enough. He didn't have to be extended to actually prove that it was that conclusive. Sharjah came and mugged Zanny for seconds. Zanny had made too many mistakes. Just a few too many niggly mistakes, particularly a bad one early on. Probably did quite well to plug on for third. He's rated 1.5, so I don't think he's ran to his champion hurdle standard there, just about on that evidence. So I was really pleased with Banjo, the opener. I think I think he must be a significant player in the Ryan if the ground comes right from. It's not a great division. He's only got about £10 to find. He looks like a 2.5 miler to me. He's nimble enough and sharp enough for like certain 2 mile contests, while shaping that he can, stay and gut it out quite well. And he brought some of that on before by holding off St. at the end, and he's quite a high class horse. So to pretty much ran to his Arca level. So that look kind of reliable form there. And Zenta being touched off by Bo Zenith, I didn't think that was a particularly strong race. I think Zenta kind of ran a little bit below herself at Cheltenham, but it was still enough and got the nod. So it was a good meeting overall. And I mean, I just think it was good. But Shishkin is so hard to assess because you think he's beaten, then he's so in and out, and then he does that. King George going to King George fresh would be what I would do with him. I think he's probably best fresh. I think he might be better right-handed, but looking at that evidence, you'd think, is he now quick enough for a King George now? It seems unfathomable for a horse that was like odds on for Champion Chase just last season. So it's quite wild how his career's kind of gone. But he's definitely still classy. He's mid 160s. Just think maybe younger legs are going to catch up with him now down the line. The way he shuffle about, something that travels smoothly will probably get him. And the Irish horses are disappointed again. Found nothing at the end there. Travelling it quite well. Seems to be conflated, and I think Hoysenor. People were saying it was a career best, but I think the Gold Cup's kind of left a little bit of a mark in the rest. So I think the form is open to a bit of question.
Yeah,
keep Ryan here, which is probably a lot less attritional.
Yep, just some of the other horses to kind of note that won over the weekend. Jerry Calum obviously redeemed himself in the Mild May. I thought it was a really good performance actually from Jerry Calum. In the pocket, won the top novices hurdle. Pick Dory won the Marsh. Really good pick from you, Appy. Actually, another win for Lucinda. Apple away won the Sefton. I thought again something could be she could have a good one there for the future as well. Similar vein to Hoysenor. Saturday we had John Bond really just beat kind of nothing really, just kind of jump reasonably enough, won well, potentially kind of won down for the future, kind of up and trip. Irish Point won the Mersey, with Sire de Berley won the Liverpool hurdle, obviously Corach Rambler won the Grand National as well. So did a kind of big eye catchers for there. Who would you say would you most kind of impressed by? Give us a top three and impressive performances over the weekend.
Oh, the winners column. I was impressed by Sire de Berley. To win from there and struggle along the back again, to keep your form like a veteran is quite impressive. He was a bit forgotten about the market, and I didn't really understand why. He's a bit old, but we can kind of see that this division is quite competitive in much of a muchness. And if Flooring Porter goes off like the Clappers and gets challenged, it's going to pan out exactly the same as a Steers hurdle. It was tactically, from a tactical viewpoint, it was the same kind of race. And Belly at the moment is the strongest steer with the biggest engine for it. If they'd slowed down, maybe get a breather Flooring Porter, he might have been detached, and if they were able to quicken, then it would have been over for him. But I think that was an emphasis of how tactical things can get. I was impressed with Jerry Calum in the figures. Just a kind of flat track with a bit more time for fences rather than the undulations. I think settled them down a bit. You could argue it's not the strongest race in the world, and it certainly wasn't. But I think he's ran a good kind of solid 158 there, and I think he's got tons of potential to run into the mid 160s. You need to find another £10 on top of that to be a peak Gold Cup contender, but his stamina is definitely there. The potential's all there. And you don't really. It's quite hard to go to the well and come back from Gold Cups all the time. It's hard to replicate those kind of performances. Look at Appletard this season, for instance. He's just not been quite the same horse since his huge effort in the Gold Cup. So you'd be looking at him as an up and coming, thinking definitely, and it's a boost for the real whacker form. You know, I mean, he might knock his background a little bit, and think, but I mean, he'd be bang there with a Gold Cup trip. Would be quite suitable for him as Jerry Calum would definitely open the question, and I think a lot of people anticipate the form to be reversed going into next season. But the Brown advisory might have a decent look at it. It certainly looks stronger form than the Turners anyway at the moment. That's what I would say. And to just go back, probably just have to go back to Corach Rambler for the main one, because to win a Grand National like that and look like the winner for like the vast majority of 4 miles is quite the achievement. And Galdem Neil ran his race. Solid run 155. Vanelli was the other well handicapped horse in the race, and they were kind of from unpromising positions near the rear, so he's definitely run above his mark. So I mean, I think Corach Rambler ran at least £7-8 to his well in mark, and now he's reassessing. He's got up another 3 off 159. It'll be fascinating what the team do. You know, do you campaign him like you did with Hoy Senior and be pretty aggressive with them? I think Hoy Senior 6 runs in Great Company. I don't think they'll do that much. How do you split them? Maybe a Hoy Senior goes to Haydock, Betfair Chase, and you go kind of Weatherby into the Grade 2s with Corach Rambler. Maybe a Charlie Hall, something like that. Ascot Baby as well. One of them go to the King George, try it with a House Senior again. I mean, do you send one of them over to Ireland? I think it'll be keen for Derek Fox to keep both partnerships intact anyway. And what do you do the extra? I mean, one for Arthur was the kind of big victory that put the stable on the map, and the way they source their horses, you know, they buy them relatively cheap. Apple always a 35 grand purchase. Corach Rambler's a 17 grand purchase. Do they set their sights higher now and go for better kind of priced horses and even maximise their potential more? What they've done with their resources is quite incredible. Do you start changing that now and maybe try and shorten a higher market and reach for the stars even further? So it's a brilliant story for Scottish racing. To mention that the novice hurdle form, it looks all Irish, doesn't it? Along the Triumph. that with the future. I mean, Irish Point was, you can spot that from a mile away. Being kept fresh for that, and 561 was a smashing price for him. You know, he probably knew he wouldn't beat Marine National and the Supreme. That Royal Born form stronger all the time in the pocket. Even winning the 2 mile contest, probably look capable of going up to 2.5 miles anyway. He's probably an off chaser to follow next season. He might be a player in the Turners, even though I quite like Statement for that. Didn't wait and see, but I mean, all this Irish novice form, hurdle form looks far superior than the British. But the only kind of saving base for the British is the 3 mile novice hurdle form, because I thought Stay Away Faye ran pretty well in the Grand Sefton behind Apple Away at 4th. Plugged on, he was there to show up for a long way. Just trying to keep in tabs with the winner. The only horse that British train that I thought was shaped better was the 3rd, the Rocco. I think 100%. He was the biggest kind of non-winning eye catcher. Got the trip fine. He was out the back. They had got it. The Martin Pike winner kind of proved that he did, and even in kind of, you know, similar-ish kind of ground. But he's definitely going to go chasing season. He's definitely worth his place in the company. If you're looking at early kind of Brown advisory markets, I mean, he's probably a decent starting point, because Martin Pike winners have this kind of pretty good record of being handy chasers down the line, and it's because he's from an unfashionable stable that probably won it. He's definitely a talented horse. He's definitely going to be as good as some of these previous winners anyway, and he's going to try and make a say in graded company. So he'd definitely be the one to kind of follow from things from me in the non-winning side of things.
Yep, I would agree with that. I think I thought Lucia ran a good race, actually, considering the ground. Kind of went against her on the Friday. I thought she showed that on better ground. I think she's I could see her maybe following a similar line to maybe Epatone when she get turned over in the Mares Novice, kind of Jerry Fielding, something like that. Yeah, I think.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, you might try and campaign like Epatone. I mean, the handicap marks like the mid 130s. I mean, she could probably plunder one of them quite easily enough.
Yeah.
Go to Kempton Christmas, maybe throw in a Christmas hurdle, things like that. I mean, it's the same Irish point race. I mean, and let's talk about removing risk about racing. And Dart Raven falling was quite a gutter. Sixth in the Supreme, he looked like to be travelling quite well going up in trips. So he would definitely have had a say in the finale, and that kind of goes to show that, I mean, incidents like that, they do happen, and that's, but fortunately, they only happen like 0.2% of the time now. But they're striving to improve that, and we'll see what happens. But Dart Raven, he was a cracking future prospect, and that was kind of the ultimate sad note for me, really, at Aintree.
I mean, I had one bet for Cheltenham from this meeting. Dysart Enos for the Mares Novice. I kind of just followed on 6-1 though, which was ridiculously short, but I managed to get 20s. So again, interesting to see. There's a lot of talk about this Vega horse that's coming out. Like, again, another Vega filly that could be one for the future. Aurora Vega, but Dysart Enos, I'd rather take 20-1 than 6-1. I thought that price was ludicrous. I had a wee lump on her after winning that because I quite liked the performance.
Yeah, I mean, the Mares Novice market right now, and bumpers are definitely for me. She won it really well. Sort of laid out for it, form, interlinking form with Queen's Gamble, which is definitely not bad, and progress for it. I think Fergal Bryant is a very kind of good target trainer at that level. Ever at Cheltenham, I wouldn't be too fussed. But you don't know how these horses will jump a hurdle either, and that's kind of at least if they jump a hurdle, they look like a chase and kind of things. Translating it from bumpers, and particularly mares, they really don't know how they kind of progress and improve throughout the season. So yeah, 20-1 for now a 61 shot is definitely a good bit of business anyway. So early doors, good luck.
We're off and running. Flat head on for a wee minute. We're recording this on the Thursday morning. The Craven meeting is kind of happening. We've got two kind of interesting races today. Creative Force obviously heads the market for the Abertnan. We've got Mysterious Night. We've got quite a good Craven stakes, I would say. We'll start with the first one. Creative Force 4-6. Again, I just think he's probably better than all these.
Well, he's coming down to Group 3 company, isn't he? In from a Group 1 kind of challenge, he's really close to the Platinum Jubilee once. He can get 7. Good record, Royal Ascot. He's a reliable 1-1-5 operator, and that should be enough to kind of win this. And he is being accordingly backed. I think the way Godolphin backed their horse. I mean, Newmarket's Charlie Appleby's HQ. They want this horse to win. He was very unlucky. The winless year in Group 1 company, but I mean, so many seconds, so many thirds, danced every dance. I think there's been a bit of rain, which actually suits him. And the way he's been back, I mean, it'll just win, really. The other one's in behind. Eraz kind of shaped quite well at Doncaster. He's been taken out probably because of the rain, to be honest. Mm-hmm. He was wanting better ground, so I'd be mindful of that there's been a wee bit of shower. Garris is probably the one. Charlie Hill's probably will have that horse quite forward. He'll probably be the one that's a challenge, but I'd imagine Bogan Buick will just kind of. He likes to race handily, but he might just track him and mug him. But I fully expect Creative Force to win that, and then you'll be looking at like all the top class 6 furlong races.
Yep, absolutely. The Craven Stakes, I quite like Moustarcha for the Gosdens and Jim Crowley here, 4-1. I thought he was really good in his debut in the all-weather. Probably the one I would say I think just looking at this race, probably the one I would say that's going to be more kind of the best of these in the future.
Again, another funny race. This, I mean, I like the favourite Mysterious Night. I mean, the way he won at Woodbine was impressive. The Canadian kind of Group 1 coming in, and it's really hard to back against the Buick Appleby Godolphin combo around Newmarket, I think, in races like these. I think they've won like 4 of the last 5 of these as well, and this is their kind of hunting ground. And they do particularly well around here. And the Foxes, I think, probably once further. He looks more of a kind of Dante type rather than kind of again, he's a kind of miler. I think he's kind of more mile quarter, mile and a half horse. Matabs here is a threat without a doubt. John Gosson's horses have been a bit in and out. Yesterday I was a bit disappointed with a couple of them. Copice of Philly was not great. The one at Holly Doyle Road looked very ungainly and drifting the market quite notably. Indestructible could run well, quite forward, ran well in Acom. But yeah, I can't get away from the Godolphin factor and Mysterious Night here.
Yep, I thought yesterday the one, the Mama's Girl, the one at Hannon's, I thought she could potentially be a good horse. I thought she was really good actually yesterday.
Yeah, flew home late, kind of caused an upset. But apparently she'd been training with 3-year-olds as a 2-year-old, so
right.
And obviously quite rare. And Richard Hannon always finds a kind of sleeper for these kind of Guineas races, particularly the Phillies edition. So yeah, in 6-1, I think it's an open kind of market. I think 6-1 is a bit kind of short. It's an open little race, but you give automatic respect to whatever comes over from Ireland at the moment. I would think the Dermot Wild horse being the obvious one. Tahira, if that comes over, I think that could spread eagle these at the moment. Yeah, she came fast and late and was very impressive and well on top of the line. Likely she'll come on for it. Some of the principals disappointing a little bit, but these trials are kind of 2-year-olds improving into 3-year-olds. They can be different animals come the new season, and that was kind of one there. But it's definitely worth considering. She gets a strong pace and can rattle home. And the big plus win in that trial is that you know that you're fully effective over course and distance. That dip can catch out a lot of horses that have never seen it before, and when she met the rising ground, she absolutely flew home.
Let's move into the subject of the show today, the Scottish Grand National, with one of the best meetings of the year. I think always for us, obviously local boys, we love this meeting. Scottish Grand National. Let's just start with a big race. There's a couple other races we'll touch on, but the Scottish Grand National declarations are in. Monbeg Genius seems to be the gamble here. It's just been backed religiously over the past couple of days. Now into 4-1 favourite. Kitty's Light obviously won the Ida a few weeks ago. Again, 9-2. She could be a good option there. You've got your own story for the Russell team. 12-1 Balls. A few. Gavin Cromwell sent over Melina Girl. You've got Dusart for Nicky Henderson. It's actually a pretty good Scottish Grand National. I don't often say that. There's a few horses in here that are interesting.
Yes, the top three are obviously, the obvious port of call here. They've dominated the market for quite some time, and the one that's coming in for money is Monbeg Genius, and we obviously know why, because of that ultimate form behind Corach Rambler. You can see it from a mile off. You can see the angle, but out of the top three of the market, he's the least convincing for me.
Right. Okay.
And I just don't think. I think he might be more ready next season, and I backed him in the Ultim as well. But I think he needs a bit of cut in the ground here, and the extra mile. I wouldn't be as positive as other people, and 145 is quite high for a race like this. Being a 7-year-old, and I just wonder if he's going to come out the race as well as Corach Rambler did, because I think he had a harder time than he did. Just taking a Cheltenham race as a 7-year-old and then coming here, at least Corach Rambler was 9, he kind of constitution to kind of definitely overcome that. I wouldn't be as sure with Monbeg Genius, and if they don't get the rain on Saturday, it's going to be quite quick ground. I think in the build up to the Ultimate, the trainer pointed out that he does need a bit of cut in the ground and he might not get it here. And so out of the top three in the market, I'd be a bit against him. Kitty's Light, I'd be interested if they put headgear on him, because he won without that in the Ida, and he made kind of a couple of mistakes, didn't really fluidly travel at all. The 2 times I've put headgear on him, travel race wonderfully. He's £3. He's £3 below what he did as second, Christian Williams target trainer in these races, he's often not far away off the mark. So I mean, I would at the same price, I would back him over Monbeg Genius. And I think the other one to consider is for the Lucinda Russell double is Your Own Story, without a doubt. Form closely tied into Stumptown. First try was 4 miles. He looks like a horse that the further he goes, the better he's definitely going to be. Their ability to map one out for this is unbelievable. They won it 2 years ago with Mighty Thunder. They do it in the Grand National. Mighty Thunder's back again off a kind of really workable mark.
Mm-hmm.
He's the only outsider that I'm now drawn to. I don't think he's entirely. He showed kind of pockets of promise in the last couple of runs. He might bounce back to form as well. So the Russell pair would definitely merit respect. I mean, Your Own Story, I think, would be a good one. I mean, I'm gutted there wasn't a kind of 12-month anti-post market for this, because that's so many earners in hurdler, and kind of was thinking, yeah, and he was one of my 5 to follow right at the start of this kind of series as well. Yeah. And I kind of earmarked him for maybe this could be a Scottish Grand National horse if he can go through the ratings quickly enough, and he just about has in 128. I think there's more to come with him. It's probably better than that in this marathon trip will suit. Dussart wouldn't be for me after his last effort. Pulled up 154. I think he's making the weights for everything here. Melina Girl will be interesting if there was a downpour. If this rain does come for the Irish Raider, Gavin Cromwell horse, I think that would be a player. The Irish don't have a great record in this,
no.
But I think if the rain did come for her, she would start entering the equation. The one that I liked initially, who's now probably going to Sandown along with the winner of that race, was Revels Hill. If Harry Fry brought them up here, I thought that Exeter Marathon race was a good kind of pointer for this. But I think they're now going to wait for Sandown. It's a bit of a shame. Flash Colognes would have a squeak. The rest, I don't think are that particularly appealing. So yeah, at the moment, I would probably be in the Kitty's Light camp if it kept drifting, with a lot of respect for the Russell pair, and keep a note in Melina Girl if it rains.
The one I'm kind of coming down on is Empire Steel. I think, again, untested at the trip, has good form behind Lamilos as well. I just think that this could potentially be, if again, might need a bit more rain to come. I think the rain has to come on Saturday morning. I've kind of looked at the weather. There is meant to be a bit of rain on Saturday. So if the rain comes, I don't think it'll do him any harm. A 14-1, I think it's a worthy each way play. Again, I don't really. Monbeg Genius, I get obviously the move. Kitty's Light, I think we know he's a proven stayer. Second in it last year, could easily go one better. You Like Your Own Story. Again, just kind of good form behind some decent horses. Wouldn't have Dussart at all. Don't think he's, again, top weight. I just don't think, for me, this trip, I wouldn't have him at all. Empire Steel, I think, is the one I would have at a price. I don't really think there's much else. Mighty Thunder, as you say, very interesting off 128. Again, not many winners run off that low compared to in the past. So maybe I Sabre and Mighty Thunder, but probably my strongest selection would be Empire Steel.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't rule him out at all. It's just he's quite exposed, and it's a career high mark, isn't it?
Yeah.
The 9-year-old in 11.5. I mean, Sandy Thompson, he does kind of well mapping these horses. He's got a decent kind of record in it. So we can see him running his race. I think he could place. I'd be surprised if the market is fairly accurate here in terms of what they are, because I would be pretty surprised if one of the top three didn't win this.
I think
Monbeg Genius might be a class above. I think that's why he's been backed. It's kind of the second coming of Corach Rambler. I just worry if he's probably done enough this season. I mean, he's only had 5 runs in his life, and then punish him into this. I don't know if he's do quite well, but I thought he was probably well primed for Cheltenham that day, and he was back as if he was. Coming back, something like a Welsh National next season, I think it'd be more interesting than him. And I'm just drawn to Kitty's Light and Your Own Story a little bit more.
Yeah, I could see that one of the top 3 winning would certainly not surprise me. We've got a few other interesting races. The Novice Champion Handicap Chase, always interesting. A good field, actually. You've got like a City Chief, Oscar Elite's in there. Holding on, there's a few good horses. No prices yet, unfortunately, but what do you think here?
In the Hendo camp with City Chief,
Mm-hmm.
He won in this card last year and pulled it out of the fire, and I just expect him to do the same here. He was quite well kind of tipped away for the National Hunt Chase at Cheltenham. They obviously switched, decided to come here. Against the likes of a decent little band of horses for this meeting. Better ground purposes. He's versatile ground wise, but I think he's got too much class for these. I think he's a little bit better than them.
Yeah, I think he could win this as well. I think he could be, again, not really that bad in terms of the weights either. 225 Scottish champion hurdle, Colonel Mustard 5-1 for Lorna Fowler. You've got likes of Soaring Glory, Anna Benina, Rubod, First Street side as well. Good field.
Yes, I quite like Anna Benina.
Yeah,
I've got to admit. I think she was unlucky in the county. 8-1's not reasonable, and coming back won it last year. The mark's higher, but she has shaped all season as if it's within her compass. And this has probably been the target again. Better ground would suit her. I think even with the rain coming, it's hard to see it kind of being any worse than soft. They're probably good to soft. Ayr normally do quite a good job with the ground anyway, so I certainly wouldn't think it'll be that much of a bog. And I think Leo Dessud of the Skeltons probably has a very good chance of turning over Colonel Mustard in these terms. I think he's kind of. I mean, the more battle form is going to be key. Obviously, Colonel Mustard finished second, didn't quite get home, was kind of mugged by Benson that day. Leo Dessud shaped quite well, travelled into it, just lacked a little bit of experience. I wonder if that's maybe brought him on a little bit more and could maybe turn that form around. I see it's Bridget Andrews riding, not Harry Skelton, which is an interesting call. Weight might have been a factor there, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, I would like him. Wouldn't be that great a Colonel Mustard fan. Rubal would be interesting if the ground kind of stayed. If the ground stayed on the good side, he's obviously got quite a lot of upside to him. And they've obviously taken Ixu out because they don't expect it to be soft or heavy for him. He won the Imperial Cup quite well. He was definitely interesting for this if it was soft. So they're obviously not anticipating these kind of soft conditions. And I think the quicker it'll go, I think Anna Benina is probably the one I'll be on again at the moment.
Yeah, I think Anna Benina as well. With a wee saver in Milkwood as well. Obviously, get course form needs to be better than he's been the past couple of times. He'd be very poor at Cheltenham. I thought he had a decent chance actually in the county, but just didn't go well at all with an each way play. So I put 2 votes for Anna Benina. 3 o'clock, we've got the future champion, Novices Chase. Another really good field, really interesting run up. Tell Me Something Girl. So Rachel Blackmore will run it. I don't think she's ever rode at a racecourse, has she?
Probably not. No, I
was
don't
in that
so.
discussion yesterday. I don't think she has.
No, I don't think she has. Interesting. I remember on a chat about Jack Kennedy's not won a race around there, for instance, things like that. So 10-1 as well. It's sums up a kind of chance of the race she's jumping at the moment.
Yeah, that's what we.
I guess it's a markedly lesser race. I think the favourite's quite a good thing here at Balco Coastal. The ground totally went off in the turners and pulled them up, and that Sandown form behind Jerry Calum is definitely the strongest piece of form here, and a 9-4 favourite. I'd expect him to win this, to be honest.
I would as well. I think he's, again, ground will be a lot better. I liked him for the turn. I really liked him for the turners. Like, I thought, it was the one for me. It just didn't. Ground went against him. I've liked him for a while. I tipped him up for the plate as well. I've always thought he's potentially. He's jumping better as well. I thought he jumped okay in the turners. Like, it wasn't just weakened with the ground, I think. But again, I just think this sort of race, it's not as deep. I think he should win this. 9-4, I think it's quite a good price, actually.
Yeah, and he's £3 clear in official ratings as well, isn't he? With Thunder Rock, who's beaten before. Thunder Rock's ran quite well in course and distance. So he's probably the second best as well. And that's all right. Gino took another one probably bogged down by the ground. That's why they can all come up here really kind of later on in the spring. he was badly bogged down in the plates ground, and he's pretty reliable. Unexpected part, he's promised to do more than he's fully kind of delivered at the moment. He's got a bit to find the ratings though, and I don't think this trip's might be okay, but I mean, he's kind of the least appealing of the principals for me. I think Balcos will probably outclass these, presuming that he's over the Turner's exertion, which he should be, because they didn't kind of really go in for him when they really kind of knew that the ground going against him, just took a chance, see what happens, and he was quickly eased, wasn't he? So I think I'd expect him to win this if the word good is still in the going description.
Yep, absolutely. So it's going to be a fascinating Scottish Grand National meeting, as it always is. Punchestown, obviously, next week. Thursday, we'll probably be on next Thursday to review the first couple of days and preview what's coming up. Anything early for Punchestown, just on the entries? Very interesting rating. Entry on the Wednesday. I see Brave Man's Game is entered for the Punchestown Gold Cup.
It's way too early for me.
Yes.
Interesting. I mean, Brave Man's Game. This is probably the ownership situation that's kind of forced him to go to Ireland, isn't it?
Jinky would have won the ball.
It's a hard one. Peak form, definitely, but because of the Gold Cup exertion, no. I think he would have probably. I think he might have struggled. He's bombed out Aintree twice. It wouldn't have been for me, so I have to stick by what I originally thought. I would have said no. You probably would have feared a lot more than Irish runners did, but yeah, I think it would have been maybe roughly where a Hoy Senior was. I would probably think in that form. So no, given Galloping Deschamps going there, a rematch here would be pretty exciting. This is Willie Mullins' ultimate end of season playground, and sticking with him, and I think, I mean, I just kind of look at it from a long way out and try and find the banker perms really with him. I think that's probably the way to go. Classical Dream probably. I mean, he's going to run them all against him. I mean, Classical Dream, Monkfish, and Stephen Forlonge are likely to run against each other. Things like that. And the Steers Hurdle, I think he might run 4 in Energamene's race. Gentleman to Me and their Blue Lord, I think, might run in things like that. So yeah, I'd expect it to be a Willie Mullins kind of a fairly dominant Willie Mullins show, I think.
There is a horse in one of the bumpers that apparently I was reading. There's a lot of chat about a horse for Willie Mullins called Ballygunner Castle that apparently went to the Aintree sale. That's apparently meant to be the real deal. So keep an eye on him. I've heard the 4-year-old meant to run on the bumper on Tuesday, so we keep an eye on him. And again, it's too early for Punchestown. I think that it could be. It's always an interesting weekend, and obviously kind of 5-day meeting, but I think it's way too early. But a Scottish Grand National, it's going to be a busy weekend. Calum, again, thank you very much for going through it, and best of luck in the local meeting.
Yeah, thanks again. I'm going on Friday. I'll be working Saturday, so I'll miss that. But I quite like going on Friday. So it's going to be enjoyable. I think the weather's going to be better on Friday as well, which is a mini plus for me. So it's going to be. It's always good. I always have a ridiculously patchy record at a local track, but hopefully those 2 days will be good ones.
Brilliant. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much indeed to everyone that's tuned in. Please gamble responsibly, and as always, join us for the next episode of The Betting Ring. Cheers, guys.